Hello Orchid friends, how are you? Welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time watching my video, my channel is all about orchids. From what orchids I have, how I grow them, my thoughts on certain orchid topics, to what orchids in my collection are blooming, etc. So if you want to follow along my orchid hobby adventure, please consider subscribing to my channel and turn on the notification. Today in this video, we're going to look at one of my mini Phalaenopsis orchid. This one is a no ID from my local grocery store, as usual. This one is potted in semi-hydroponic method. And it went through a semi-hydro repot due to bad adjustment to the semi-hydro method, but then it got better. So let's take a look at how it was before. So in 2018, beginning of August 2018, I noticed that the growth of this orchid was really slow, and pretty soon I started to see a lot of wrinkling, a lot of wrinkles happening toward the bottom of the leaves. So I was thinking, it's definitely getting enough water because semi-hydro, there's always water. So I was suspecting that the root inside the media was rotting away, and that was indeed the case because it simply was not adjusting well. So anything below or in the media, all the roots within the media pretty much rotted away. So I really had to do something about it, and I'm glad that I did, because that was really the time that I took it out, cleaned it up, and I repotted it back into semi-hydro. And for those of you who are new to this orchid hobby, when you're cutting the roots and everything, it's important to have alcohol and hydrogen peroxide nearby. Hydrogen peroxide 3%, alcohol 50%. Otherwise, if you can get hold of 70% alcohol, that's also good. And make sure you disinfect the roots. And I personally like to let it sit for another 24 hours before I repot it back into any media or container. But some people do it right away, but that's something I do anyway. So this orchid was, after 24 hours of waiting period, I potted it back into semi-hydro using the original cup. Obviously, I cleaned the cup, I washed the cup, and then the media, I also use hot water to boil it. So it's essentially a repot, but I use pretty much the same material. And then September 10th, 2018, it started to put out a new leaf. And that was a very good sign. That really just means that the repot was successful and this orchid no longer was suffering from the bad adjustment that it had, right, due to the semi-hydro setup, a new setup, right? Because I bought this orchid, after the flowers were completely done, completely gone, I decided that I wanted to grow this orchid in semi-hydro, and I did that. And somehow it just didn't, the existing roots, the old roots just didn't like semi-hydro. But the repot that I did really helped, and this orchid decided that it's gonna like it. So the new leaf is a good sign, a really good sign that this orchid has adapted. And so sure enough, toward the end of 2018, we started to see two things, actually three things. We see a flower spike emerging, but we also see that this orchid was putting out area roots, and it's growing really nice roots into the media, into the reservoir, and the top two leaves on top are pretty big. There was still an old root that died off, and that's what I was trying to point out with my thumb. But for a small portion of the roots being dead inside a media in a semi-hydro setup, it's not really gonna do any bad things to the overall media, I think. At least I haven't observed any kind of stress that this orchid may be having. So some people ask me, am I gonna repot this orchid because of some dead roots inside? Well, unless this orchid is somehow showing signs of stress. Otherwise, you know, if it's just a couple of roots, I don't think I'm gonna do anything, because the last thing I want to do is unpot this orchid, risking setting back this orchid by taking it out. And if I damage some roots along the way, I think that will set back this orchid even more. So I don't want to do that. So end of the year, end of 2018, the spike continued to grow. And I was just really happy because I really thought I did the right thing by repotting it, and I'm really glad that I did. It was putting out one spike only, but this spike ended up having quite a few buds. It was also having a little tiny branch, which I thought was really cute. And honestly speaking, I actually did not remember what this orchid looked like. I just remember that it was a mini Phalaenopsis orchid that I purchased after I moved down to the south of the United States. But I really honestly had no idea when it was growing buds. I was trying to remember what this orchid looked like, and I cannot for the life of me. I could not remember what it looked like. It wasn't until end of February 2019 that the first buds started to open that I realized, oh my god, it's this one. It's this milky white color one with some tiny spots in the background and some tiny dots at the bottom sepals. So in a way, it kind of reminds me of a little bit of Schilleriana, but then also Strutiana. Obviously, I mean, the marking on the bottom sepals are not as big as Strutiana, but it's just that freckle looking pattern reminds me of Schilleriana and Strutiana. This orchid also has very interesting shimmering. It's almost like glitter on the sepals and petals, because if you look at the flowers from a certain angle, you actually see like that shimmering, glittering effect. And I remember that was one of the reasons I actually bought this orchid, right? Because it just has that glitter look and feel to it that I found really fascinating. And the lip color too, right? It's white lip, but then toward the center, toward the base of the lip has that little yellow / brownish color. So it actually makes a really good contrast with the overall background, that milky color background. So I find this orchid flower being really, really unique. Care-wise, I only provided this orchid with quarter strength fertilizer, and only quarter strength. But once a month, I do use just pure water to soak this orchid completely, and the water level is about 80%, 90% of the entire cup. This cup, this orchid is in a 12-ounce cup versus the 16-ounce cup that I use for a lot of my other orchids of bigger sizes. So this one, quarter strength, almost every week, and then once a month I'll use clear water to flush, to soak and flush. And the wet-dry cycle for this 12-ounce cup container in my environment is still about 7 days or so, so a week in summertime, and then about 2 weeks in winter time, which is typical for bigger size orchids in 16-ounce cup. They're about the same time frame, but it really depends on how many roots you have in a given container, because if an orchid is more established with more roots inside the container, at least for some of my orchids, that being like that, they absorb water much quicker, and that wet dry cycle may be a lot shorter than 7 days in summertime, but I still wait until say 7 or 8 days to give it water, because you know, I really don't have a lot of time just water 1 or 2 plants at a time. I prefer water all my orchids at a set schedule, maybe on a Saturday, and then for the ones that need water, I give them water all at once. But anyway, I'm just a lazy person when it comes to watering. But the point here is that you don't need to give it water right after it becomes dry. Plus, waiting for a few extra days actually allow you to ensure that there is really no more moisture inside the very, the center of the media, because what you see is just outside. And if you have any doubt, when in doubt, always wait for a couple more days, just so that you allow that wet-dry cycle to complete. Because I noticed that my orchids really enjoy that wet-dry cycle. Overall, I think I'm really pleased with how this orchid has done this year, and if it continues to grow leaves and do okay, I think this one will be in semi-hydro like this, in this container, for a very long time to come, unless it outgrows this container. Otherwise, I think I will just keep it in this container in semi-hydro setup for the foreseeable future. Overall, I'm pretty pleased with this orchid this year, and I really like how the flowers look. Even though it doesn't have any fragrance, I think it's still a very good orchid to have in a collection. This is all I have for you today. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and if you would like to get more orchid related videos from my channel, please subscribe and turn on the notification. I want to wish you happy growing, and I will talk to you in my next video. Ciao!